All right, we are in Pathway 4, and we are currently learning about different fashion trends throughout the decade. Pathway 4 is all about design, so as we look through this PowerPoint together, I'm going to describe different things that I see in each decade, and you need to remember to write down very descriptive words that you would use to describe the decades. I'll try to give you some, but also look at the pictures and think of some on your own. All right, so here is the 1900s. In the 1900s, you can see that it was very similar from 1900 to 1909, but there were a few differences along the way. If you look at 1900 up to 1905, you have a very high waist and a cinched waist. This gives you the feel of an hourglass figure, and it also is very flattering to your shape. Another thing that is common throughout all of these pictures is the very high neck. You don't see anything that's very plunging or low cut, which we're used to now. So everything was very modest, I would say. But it still had a lot of detail. You can see a lot of ruffles and collars and pleats. So that is where women chose to express themselves. Another thing that you see in all these pictures is the accessory of a hat. You don't necessarily see these things nowadays. You might look at someone kind of crazy if they came out in a hat like that, but this is something that was very popular in the 1900s. 1910. Not very, very different, but you can see it is becoming a little more modern. Women are, as you can see on the left, they're wearing things that are the exact same color, kind of like a jumpsuit, what we're used to now. And then on the right, they're wearing something very similar, however very different. You can see the same color throughout, but it is not exactly matchy-matchy as the pictures on the left. They're embellished with ruffles as well, some very pretty lace collars, but you see a different shape. If you're looking at the picture on the right in the middle, the red outfit, that is we have not seen that shape yet. So she has a high waist, but we're not seeing it because of the jacket. So as you can see, styles weren't exactly the same. Not everyone wore the same thing in 1910, but you had a very similar silhouette. You wanted to look tall and lean. In the 1920s, things started to get a little crazy. You no longer have that high waist anymore. You have a dropped waist. Dropped waist. So, dropped waists are usually associated with flappers, and that was something that was very prevalent in the 1920s. These women were probably going out dancing, going to have a good time. You can see they're all wearing necklaces like pearls, and all of their dresses have a very low dropped waist. This is kind of similar to a drop crotch pant that we see nowadays, but this is a little more old-fashioned, as you can see. And again, all of these women are wearing hats, but it's a different kind of hat. They're wearing more of a bowl hat. The 1930s, things got a little different as well. As you can see, every 10 years, things are changing up. Every year, things really change. This is more focused on sex appeal. As you can see, women are definitely showing off their figure. Things are a lot more tight. There's less patterns and ruffles going on, and it's straight to the woman's body. There are a lot of embellished necklines and sleeves here as well, where the bottoms are somewhat plain. The pictures on the right show a little more fancy or a night out in the town type look, and the ones on the left would be your regular, everyday, what you would wear around the house, out to eat, to the park, etc. 1940, again, changed it up. You can see here that we no longer have the skirt to the floor. We have it right to the knee or even above the knee. And it is more of a masculine vibe. Not in a sense that they look like men, but you can see that they have more pleats, they have structured collars, and they also are wearing trench coats, which is commonly associated with men. Another thing that you see is some people aren't wearing a hat if you look on the right, so you didn't have to wear a hat when you went out, where before that was something that everybody did. Everybody wore a hat. We see a little bit of a different neckline. You see some more skin, but still very conservative to what we're used to nowadays. The 1950s. Here you can see that it was played up with texture and color a lot differently than you saw in previous decades. You see a lot of bright colors in here, and this is more of the quote-unquote housewives. If you've ever watched the show Mad Men, this is exactly where it's taking place. So you see some more skin, whether it's in the neckline or it's sleeveless or like a halter top. Another thing you see is, again, a cinched waist, but a fuller skirt at the bottom. So you really get the hourglass figure. If you look at the picture in the center, you could see that it's the perfect hourglass shape. She has a wide skirt, so it gives the illusion of her waist being that much smaller. 1960s. This is kind of like the Brady Bunch era. As you can see, they're wearing very plain dresses, but still very different from what was before. It's kind of like a t-shirt dress, what we see today, where you don't get much shape out of it, but it's still very stylish. Again, they're showing more of their legs in terms of length, and their arms. A lot of them are actually sleeveless. This, too, was a decade where they played with a lot of fun prints and colors, and these are a lot of colors that you might not have seen in previous decades. Accessories were hats and headbands, as you can see, and a lot of the haircuts were actually a lot shorter than what we're used to today as well. 1970s. The 70s was the time of the hippies. So as you can see here on the right, you can definitely see you can catch the whole vibe of the 70s. Very matchy, but not the same. As you can see, somebody's wearing a pantsuit with a very high-collared shirt, and then there's some people wearing a skirt with a cardigan. Very different, but still very the same. You could tell that they're all from the same era. If you look at the picture on the left, the girls look very young. They're wearing pigtails, they're wearing a sweater dress with a vest over, a lot of layering and accessories, and this is when you start to see the layering come into play. You can see people wearing cardigans here. We really didn't see that before. And the same thing where you're seeing a collar popped out of a sweater vest, and then there's a long sleeve shirt underneath, so they're playing with length as well as texture. You see some belts in there. So this is definitely where you start seeing that come into play. 1980s. 1980s, we're kind of bringing back the high-waisted again. High-waisted, bright colors, and oversized clothes. This is what we see today in an oversized boyfriend blazer or a boyfriend jean. This is kind of directly inspired from the 80s. In the 80s, it was popular to wear like a high-waisted short, high-waisted pants, and big tennis shoes, some big ruffly socks, and a crop top. And that's kind of what we're seeing today. We see a lot of crop tops with high-waisted shorts or pants, and a lot of boyfriend blazers and oversized pants as well. The 80s was also a time where they really played with color and print. They liked to wear a lot of bright colors, a lot of big hair. So that's what was going on in the 1980s. In the 1990s, it's a little more basic, a little more laid back, but still very fashionable. You see a lot of denim when you look at anything related to the 90s. You also see a lot of prints, sweatshirts, headbands, very, very basic, but still stylish, as I said before. So as you can see on the picture on the left, they're wearing high-waisted denim jeans. A lot of people would call those mom jeans now, but they were actually very, very in style. So it was very simple in terms of you wore your jeans and then you just wore a nice sweater with it. You looked very nice, simple, not as crazy and outgoing as the 80s, but not as modest as it was back in the day in the 1910s. So you have a little skin showing in the back. And then if you look at some of the other pictures, it's just very, it's very matchy in terms of they're both wearing a very crazy print sweater on the right. And that was very common. Those kind of sweaters and cardigans were very popular, as well as the pants in the middle with the crazy print. So you would wear something a little crazy on the top and then simple on the bottom, or you'd wear something crazy on the bottom, simple on the top, as you can see. 2000s. This is where some of you might be remembering things, actually. So this is the era of Lizzie McGuire and Lindsay Lohan. Very simple, kind of Abercrombie-ish. You wear a mini jean skirt from Hollister with some Ugg boots and a shirt. That's what was going on for a long time in the beginning of the 2000 era. The picture on the left, you can see just very, very simple, very low-rising clothes. That was very popular in the 2000s. And so you wore a low-waisted skirt or bottom with a very simple cami or top. 2010, this is what we're seeing today. Lots of prints. You see a lot of skin, but it still can be very conservative. And this is the future. What do you think about the future? This is just things I found online, but it's not for sure happening, obviously. So answer your questions and let me know what you think.